Hi everyone, welcome. I see that people are joining, so we're going to give it another minute and then we will start. In the meantime, I want to say thank you everyone for joining. We're really excited to host our first MA in Israel Studies webinar. In a minute, I'll introduce the academic head of the program, Professor Menachem Blandheim. But first, I just want to invite you to use the chat bar on the side of your screen, on the right side, to introduce yourself and to write to us from where you are coming. You can also use the Q&A. We'll see, and we'll do our best to copy and paste into the chat so everyone can see what people are writing. After, we're going to start with Professor Menachem Blandheim. He's going to read through some slides, give you some information about the program. Afterwards, I'm going to read aloud some of your questions so that you can hear, and I'll do my best to answer them. Students who did not get an answer to their questions are welcome to email me privately at the end of the session. You can all see on your right-hand side, under the Zoom webinar chat, I posted 3 links. The first link is for our program page, the MA in Israel Studies. The second one is to our online application page, and the third one is my email address. Okay, so with that, I'm going to introduce Professor Menachem Blandheim, the academic head of the program, and he's going to give you some information.
Okay, hi guys. I'd much rather be in the position of interviewing you and asking you questions about who you are and where you are and how things are there. I think we're all extremely curious about what's happening in other places. But my job is to do the talking, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to each one of you, to some of you, beginning October here in Jerusalem, where I'm talking from home, the neighborhood called Ramot. Okay, what will I be talking about? I'll be answering more or less 4 questions in say 5 minutes, and Amy, you'll have to cue me when it's time for me to end, because I can go on and on. I like talking about Israel studies, about the program, and that's what I'm going to be talking. These are really the questions I'll be addressing right now. Why Israel? Why do study abroad in Israel? Why do Israeli studies? Why do it in Jerusalem? Why do it in our specific program? And how does our program actually work? So that's what I'll be addressing. And I guess by talking about Israel and saying that it's an extremely interesting and unusual place, I'm preaching to the choir. In many ways, you're online now because you have an initial interest in Israel. So let me just confirm that Israel is a mind-boggling place. It's dizzying, it's amazing, it's different. Some of you are online because of its history. Some of you are online because of its religion. It's the origin of the 3 Abrahamic religions, and it's an extremely intensive and fascinating religious site. It's a country that features, and I'll speak about that a bit more in a moment, it features the world's paradigmatic inter-ethnic conflict, specifically between Israelis and Palestinians. Extremely interesting, extremely important. I'm sure that has brought many of you to a preliminary interest in the program. But when you'll come here, you will discover something that is not really advertised or very well known. Israel is an amazingly vigorous cultural scene. The music scene is something that you won't find anywhere else in the world. It's original, it's dramatic, it's fascinating. You see some series about Israel. The culture here is something else, and it's amazingly intensive. And the interpersonal life, the social scene, is extremely intensive, varied, fascinating, and this will sound surprising, maybe, but generally extremely peaceful, more so not only than New York today, but than in practically any other place in the world. We'll talk later a bit more about the scene here in Jerusalem. Why Israel studies? So I said Israel is a center for the world's most talked about conflict presently, in the past decade at least, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Israel is featured in the top news of the world more frequently than any other country beside the US. We are, of course, less than 10 million people, small economy, and so forth. The reason is apparently that people understand that Israel and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict carry something really essential in them that are paradigmatic, that enable us to open up our horizons and understandings of other processes in the world. It's the epicenter of the conflict between the rich and the poor, the traditional and the modern, the East and the West, the North and the South. There's something essential in Israel and in its experience, which gives us the notion that it can give us a key to opening up a much better understanding of the broader world. So that's really Israel studies. Jerusalem. It's one of, so you all heard about Jerusalem. This is not Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Tell practically any person in the world that you're in Jerusalem or were in Jerusalem, and the answer will be, everyone knows about Jerusalem. But for religious reasons, for political reasons, for historical reasons, and so on. But as I say, beyond that, it's an amazing experience to be here. And physically, it's one of the safest places in the world. I know this goes against everything you know intuitively. Just check out the world information about homicides per 100,000 people. It's lower than any other place practically any other place in America, almost any other place in the world. Corona-wise, we're one of the safest countries. I think we have the lowest rate of deaths per infected individuals in the world. I think we have the lowest casualties to corona than all the OECD Western countries. Hebrew University, it's a terrific place. It's Israel's top university, among the best in the world. Depends on the field, of course. And our program, I think I'm starting to run out of time. I will gladly talk much more about it in the questions and answers, but it's a winner. We get amazing feedback from the students who are with us. This feedback is reflected in the positions that they assume later in life. Let me just add, the program is extremely interdisciplinary, although its focus is mainly on the social sciences, such as political science, sociology, media, geography, and so forth. But it's a varied program, interdisciplinary, with a lot of opportunities to do elective courses. One of our main features is you can study Hebrew intensively, you can study Arab intensively, and we prepare you in the short run for studying for a master's degree, for developing into a PhD, a dissertation degree. And I think the general knowledge we give both about the Israel studies and the broader horizon prepare you for lots of different career opportunities. Amy, you can flip to the next slide, which would give a notion of that. And talk to people who are here. We can give you names. I think it's an extremely pleasant atmosphere in the school. It's open. You can discuss everything. We try to be flexible, though we do not. Our standards are high, and people who come have a great experience. So I hope I'll be able to meet some of you sharing that experience beginning October. Thank you. Okay, so if they're, I guess now, we're back to Amy. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, I'm just going to discuss briefly the next slide, which is about admissions. So you have here some information about how much the program costs and how you apply. I want to address the admissions requirements for a minute. Just briefly, we have more information on our website, and you're also welcome to send me a personal email. But in order to apply to the program, students need to have a bachelor's degree from an accredited university with a minimum 3.2 or B GPA average or the equivalent. Students who are not sure can be in touch with me. The application process includes the submission of a CV, a statement of purpose, 2 academic recommendations, or 1 academic and 1 professional recommendation. And students need to submit a TOEFL exam score or an IELTS score. Again, students can be in touch with me personally about exemption. Okay, so I'm going to stop the screen share for a minute and I'm going to take a look at your questions. Okay, so I had 2 questions that were sent to me. One of the questions was about just generally financial aid and specifically US financial aid. We have scholarship information on our website, so students are welcome to send me a personal email and I'll send it to you. Students from the US, we have a New York office and they take care of both need-based and merit financial aid as well as federal loans. And students from outside the US can be in touch with me. We also have need-based financial aid available. The other question that we had was about the option to study Arabic as part of the program. So Arabic is not technically part of the program, but we're happy to be flexible and to work with students in order to incorporate different courses that interest them, as long as they're connected, and obviously Arabic could be. So those are the questions that we received. If anyone else, you're welcome to send through the Q&A when something just came in. Somebody's asking about PhD studies. So PhD studies are an option. It depends where you're referring to, studies at the Hebrew University or studies outside of the Hebrew University. What's important to keep in mind is that this is a non-research program, which means that it's a one-year program. Sorry. And students, in order to be eligible, usually for admission to PhD programs, they need to write a thesis. So it is possible to write a thesis at the Hebrew University, but it involves extending your studies for an extra year. And then you can be considered for PhD studies either here at the Hebrew University or elsewhere. Somebody else is asking, are Hebrew language classes taken daily? So first of all, modern Hebrew language studies are optional, not required. Students can sign up, there's no extra cost involved. It's an intensive Hebrew course offered 3 times a week, usually Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, I believe, in the mornings. So that's another one. What kind of seminars are offered in this course? If I want to write a master's thesis, when would be the deadline to register for an extra year? Okay, so seminar courses, I'm happy to, you can send me an email. I'll be able to send you the course database. That would be helpful. You can go through the courses. You have links to the syllabi and the course descriptions. In general, maybe Menachem, you want to answer that question. I'll just answer the thesis question quickly, and then maybe if you want to speak a little bit more at length about the courses. The deadline to write, to apply for the thesis, students who think that they want to write a thesis should be in touch with us towards the beginning of their program, let's say within the first half of the autumn semester, because there's an application process involved to apply to be a thesis student, and that should be started somewhere in the autumn semester. Menachem, do you want to talk a little bit about the courses in the program?
Let me first really just confirm what you said about the master's program. It's a one-year program that gives you a degree, but it's not a thesis program. Therefore, at least at the Hebrew University, you can't continue to do a doctorate without writing a thesis. That would usually require another year. And it is done not at Rothberg, not within the framework of our program, but in the Faculty of the Social Sciences of the university. Now, I will help you personally if you are interested in this track, and yes, it would be good to get an indication, like towards the middle of the school year, that you're interested in the thesis in your direction, and it really depends on finding an advisor and the program at the Hebrew University that would accept you, that would take you on. And I can try to facilitate that, to have you to introduce you to my colleagues who may take an interest in the topics you're interested in, and so on. We don't guarantee it, but we have a very good success rate of students who want to continue to write a thesis and then do PhD studies. We often get them. We can arrange that, though we don't guarantee it. The program itself, I said in my introductory remarks, is multidisciplinary. We try to keep a good balance between compulsory courses that give everyone a good basis and a common core, and also let you know each other, because one of the most informative experiences you will have is interacting with each other. Each one of you is coming from a different background, sharing what you know and thinking about more advanced ideas, topics is a tremendous resource. So about half the program are compulsory courses in Israeli politics, media, geography, and history. Then you have a pretty large range of courses to choose from, to select from, and that's about less than half of the remaining credits you need. A very important feature of our program is you are not isolated in Rothberg. There are numerous elective courses given in English in the Faculty of the Social Sciences, less in the Faculty of the Humanities, but you will be studying the same courses that Hebrew University regular students are studying. And that's, of course, a tremendous, not only learning experience, it's a great social and educational experience. Finally, there are 2 seminar papers that you write in courses you decide to write the seminar paper in, which brings you into a much more advanced level. And that's a nice chunk of the credits that you need. Let me just add, since there were questions about acquiring language, I want to say 2 things, 3. One is that our language program, the Ulpan it's called, that we have at Rothberg is probably the best in the world for studying a language. It has, I can tell you the history of it and its emergence by one of the world's premier sociolinguists. She established the system. It works. We have it both for Hebrew, for Arabic, both literary and spoken. However, you do not get credits for the language study, but you can take them. We are working on giving you at least half credit for language acquisition. I can't promise it yet. We don't know if that will happen. Okay, Amy, back to you.
Thank you. I see we have one more question in. A student is saying, I have a 3.1 GPA. Does that disqualify me from the program? So no, students who have a GPA that's close to what we require, you're welcome to apply. The admissions committee takes into account not only your GPA, but also your academic background, what you write in your CV and your statement of purpose, and the strength of your academic recommendations. So if you feel that you're still have what to contribute to the program and you're only 1 point below, then you're definitely still able to apply. So those are the questions. There's another one. Hebrew is the door to Israeli society. Is it possible to become fluent in the modern Hebrew language? I'll say something about it, and then Menachem, maybe you want to elaborate. We offer Hebrew at 6 different levels, from the beginners to the advanced. Each level takes 1 semester or summer Ulpan session to complete, which means that the MA in Israel Studies is a 2-semester program, which means that technically you can complete 2 levels of Hebrew within that time span. Assuming that you did a summer Ulpan before and a summer Ulpan directly afterwards, that would potentially allow you to complete 4 Hebrew levels. So if you're starting from the beginning, then you can complete 4 Hebrew levels out of 6, which is not bad in terms of fluency. If you wanted to really spend all the time in order to complete through the end, then you would have to extend for another semester or 2 semesters in order to complete the 6 levels. Menachem, if there's something that you want to add.
I have something nasty to say, Amy. If you're Canadian or European, you can acquire Hebrew. If you're American, you'll always remain with an accent. Sorry.
Yes. Okay, well, those are the questions that have come in. Hold on, another question. Are there any courses on Palestinian society, since it is a topic related to Israel studies? Yes, and I'll allow Professor Blondheim to.
We have a sister program in Middle Eastern studies, and much of it is about the Arab world, the Arab culture, and the conflict. And we share the courses that deal with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and we have quite a large selection. I encourage you to go into our website and see the courses, both that we recommend that the Israel Studies unit and the Middle Eastern unit provides, and they're of course interchangeable.
I'm going to post here. 1 second. Okay, I just posted a link to our online course catalog. You're welcome, all of you are welcome to log in. If you scroll down, you'll see on your left-hand side area of study. And if you select SP Israel Studies next to area of study and then click search, obviously, you'll come up with a list of all of the Israel Studies courses. You can click on the title of the course for a short description, and there's also a small view syllabus link. It also gives you information about which semester the course is offered in, whether it's required or elective, so that's very helpful. Before we conclude, I'm just gonna type in my email address one more time. I had it at the beginning, but if anybody has more questions, you're welcome to send me a direct email.
Can I answer a question that wasn't asked?
Sure.
So I think a question that's looming in the air and that we didn't raise and we haven't discussed is what happens with Corona, with contingencies for different continuations of the plague, of the pandemic. And I think the answer is quite simple. First of all, we take it as a tremendous compliment. About 70%, correct me, Amy, if I'm wrong, about 70% of our current students remained in Israel. And they didn't know at the beginning when they decided to stay that Israel would prove one of the safest places in the world, in the Western world, or in the OECD, among OECD countries, when it comes to the virus. But so basically our teaching is based on a kind of a hybrid system of both in-class and online courses, which is a good combination. I mean, it's much better. The experience is that teaching with some students on the site in class is more effective than only through online teaching. We are prepared next for the coming school year, beginning October, to have either full on-site in Jerusalem studies. We hope that'll be the situation and the condition. If there's a second wave or the pandemic isn't over, we can have continue this hybrid system. So we'll be up and running either way in October.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Obviously, these are very uncertain times, and obviously it took us a little bit of time to understand the situation and to prepare. But that said, when the Corona situation really started in Israel during the inter-semester break, what we did was we delayed the opening of the spring semester by 1 week in order to allow us to set up all of the online courses. And then we immediately launched into the Zoom semester, which was our first time doing it. So obviously it was a big change for students to go from learning in a classroom to learning online. But in terms of the streamlining of the program, they only missed 1 week of classes, which obviously we made up for them. So this was sort of a learning curve for us. And at this point, unfortunately, we sort of have learned what we need to do. And again, like Professor Blondheim said, we're very much hoping to offer classes in campus, in class, face-to-face in the autumn, but we're prepared for whatever the Corona situation might allow us to do. So I'm going to ask you one last question before we end. And then again, like I said, you guys are you're welcome to email me privately. So I'm not. Someone writes, I'm not able to see the email address on the chat. Would you send it here again? Sure, I'll send it. I'll just answer the last question, then I'll send it. The question is, the MA Israel Studies is 1 year, 12 months, or less than that. It's less than that. Our semester always starts in October after the Jewish high holidays end. So it's starting next October 18th, and it usually ends at the end of June. It's a little bit less. Okay, so I'm gonna type out my email address one more time. You can also, you can see part of it up there. I'll spell it out in case someone can't see it. Okay, I sent it again. And for anyone who doesn't see, if you want to write it down, it's GRAD, grad, MISS, at Sabion, SABION, .HUJI.AC.IL. Okay, so we're available. We're in the office. We're happy to answer questions. I want to
means Daisy.
Sorry?
Sabion means Daisy in Hebrew.
In Hebrew. So thank you everyone for logging in, for participating, for asking questions, for listening. We hope to continue hearing from you by email. We hope to see your applications in the future. And we hope to see you in Jerusalem. So thank you everyone. And we'll follow up. We'll also, we'll try and send the text of the questions and answers to everyone by email within the next day or so. And yeah, so have a good evening, everyone, and thank you.